So now it is my privilege to turn it over to Dan Merriman. Our organization is led by tremendous member leaders, and Dan is a partner with Invest Caricom, real estate professional at Sotheby's International Realty. Thank you, Dan.
ULI really focuses on bringing together real estate professionals, developers, investors, planners, policymakers to advance industry knowledge and promote sustainability. It's really a great example of ULI's mission, bringing industry leaders together to discuss capital raising, investment strategies, and sustainable development in the region. I want to hand it over to Adam Greenfader at AG&T.
So Isabel, why don't you take over and please introduce yourself.
Great. Thanks so much, Adam, and thanks so much for ULI for having me. It's always a pleasure joining such great fellow panelists. Just a brief introduction. Isabel de Caires. I'm a director in investment banking with CIBC Caribbean. We're one of the largest regional banks with a presence throughout the region, but with a footprint in 10 countries. We're headquartered in Barbados, but as I said, we do cover the region both from a corporate perspective, but we also provide personal and retail banking and wealth management, so a full suite of products and services. I sit in a team and I lead our hospitality and real estate practice and also provide coverage for infrastructure.
And what I always like to say in 5 words or less, why develop in the Caribbean today?
Why do I think, why develop in the Caribbean today? My 5 words would be, there hasn't been a better time. Webinar. So I'm David Cummings, here in Kingston, Jamaica. I'm the Vice President and Head of Real Estate and Project Finance at the Sygnus Group, headquartered in Kingston. We have offices in St. Lucia, in Puerto Rico, and also in Miami. Sygnus Group, we're essentially a very large alternative asset manager, as in private credit, private equity, real estate. But just like Isabel said, we offer a full suite of financial services, including investment banking and wealth management. Currently, our assets under management exceed $500 million US. Our private credit fund is publicly traded. We have investments in 14 different countries.
Good morning and afternoon, everybody. Heath, Melton. I'm our Chief Development Officer for Juniper Capital, specifically focused on our project in the east side of Puerto Rico called Moncayo.
You guys have done it. You're under construction. How did you put that deal together? Kind of what did the capital stack look like? Walk us through the structuring of that.
Just a little bit about the project. It's about 1,100 acres, 68 key luxury auberge branded resort. We'll have 15 for-sale branded villas as part of that hotel core, 130-ish estate lots that will be for sale, and 200 plus condos, some branded, some unbranded. An 18-hole signature golf course designed by McKinsey & Ebert out of the UK. We'll have a 100-acre farm and then a future village center for Juniper. Juniper has a history of looking at distressed assets, and most of those have been in the hospitality industry, finding those that could be turned around and make those very profitable. So some of that's what led us to Puerto Rico and to this property specifically. This site has a little bit of a storied history. I won't go into every last detail, but 2 developers had previously failed on this site before us. So they always say the third one always makes the money. So hopefully with the wind in our sails, we'll be successful.
So help us. This is a webinar of solutions. So I don't have any money. I don't know the island, and it's just me, and I want to do a project. What do we do? How do you work your way out of that?
And we're seeing a lot of landowners who perhaps don't have, again, the deep pockets to be able to pull a development, but they can partner with some of the names on this call to be able to fill that form of funding source that makes it easier then for the banks to jump on board.
Go to other groups. Why would they go to a group such as yourself versus a traditional bank, and what are the differences?
Sure, great question, Adam. We can offer you equity or debt and all other forms in between, such as a mezzanine. We can offer a mezzanine solution. We can offer a profit sharing note. We can do asset swaps.
investment is changing, and today we're starting to hear more and more impact investing. I think
it's obviously the multilaterals and IDB in particular have really paved the way, and the commercial banks I think are still having a little bit of catch up to play, but we are absolutely laser focused on it now. Our firm has a whole framework built around ESG and sustainable financing. We've looked and have arranged both green and blue bond financing, as well as green financing, both in the sovereign space, but also the private sector. And it is forming a major part of our underwriting for all of our projects now on a go-forward basis. And partially, I think, because it's the right thing to do, but also because it just makes good business sense to ensure that the projects that are being built are going to be around for the future.
Out of the gate, we have to build generators with all of our products, but we are working on kind of a larger scale solar farm that can add that level of resiliency to the project and help offset some of those costs, especially during peak times when power usage is up. And I'd say kind of another element that probably doesn't hit most people's radar is just the access to quality produce, fruits, vegetables. So we've dedicated 100 acres on our property for a farm that will service both our needs of the property as well as the needs for the surrounding community.
Impact investing for us at Sygnus is very important. We have an entire fund that is dedicated to it, dedicated to impact investing. And, based on the pipeline of projects that are across the region that we've been seeing already with this, it's going to be a major part of the thrust going forward in terms of how much effort and resources we put into impact investing.
Do recyclable water and build farms, it's going to cost more money. So that's going to end up in our pro forma, and someone's got to pay for it.
One thing we have been learning, particularly since COVID, is that the profile of a typical traveler is evolving. And a lot more focus of the discerning traveler these days is on wellness, is on sustainability, and so on. So persons are now actively seeking out resorts and experiences. It's all about experiences that are very, very high on the list of desirable locations. And if you can put together a project that has at its core those tenets, then it will mean that more than likely you'll be able to have this back into your performance because you will drive a higher ADR.
Are there any benefits from a financial capital perspective today to do projects that are sustainable, that are, really have an impact in their community, even though it might cost more initially?
The lender standpoint, that we're still going to look ultimately at what your return profile is going to be, because effectively that's still giving some equity buffer for the debt. So I think that if you're looking about community, supporting communities in the country that you're looking to develop in, and you get buy-in, and you ultimately create a better firm to work for, then you will attract greater talent. And within this industry, we all know having that talent, which really is going to drive your customer experience, is again really important. So as much as I think it can sometimes be looked at as something almost superfluous to your underwriting decision, I still think that it's ultimately connected and can create a better product, which again has top line impact, but also can help you get a much stronger team that again benefits your overall performance.
If we're talking about hotels, I always say we go from hotels to emergency relief centers. And when a hurricane comes, those hotels, if they stay open, they become, the places where your insurance adjusters arrive, where your emergency workers stay. They really are critical to the community. And it's not just the infrastructure, right? It's how do you get your hotel workers back home, and how do you feed them during those crises, and how do you provide energy for that hotel, for the air conditioning? There's a lot of elements. And I think the development community, we're starting to realize that it's important that we go a little further and figure it out. take the time to prepare these emergency plans and really evaluate how our investments impact not just ourselves and our bottom line, but the community. I'd like to say thank you to everybody for joining us. It's really been a pleasure. I will